Sometimes when you get to evaluating a team and the way that they go about their business in trying to improve from the previous season, you have to get into a little bit of outside perspective. I'm Ryan. This is me going rogue on the Kansas City Chiefs, and today is about the Chiefs, but from an outside perspective. Have a guest that you guys haven't seen before, a friend of mine, colleague from the Locked On Network, Lauren Cox, who covers the Bears quite frequently, but has also worked for Pro Football Focus. An outside perspective, especially given what Nagy has done in bringing in Damien Williams, we wanted to start the conversation there and kind of have a natural progression of where these things are and how they relate back to both teams. I find this one really fun because it gives us something outside the kingdom and gives us some place to start that maybe we don't generally think of all the time. And I think that helps clarify some things for me as I go through the evaluations of the offseason. I hope that you guys enjoy it. So make sure you like and sub and hit the bell notification. And here's Lauren Cox. We'll get right into it.
Welcome back, folks. This is RGR Football. We have a special guest you have not heard, at least not on this show, from Lauren Cox before. Let's see. Let me see if I get all these things right. Radio Chicago, NBC Sports Chicago, the Bears Wire, and, of course, Locked On Bears.
That's pretty good. We'll roll with that. How about that?
Okay, I'll take it. We won't even get into the PFF stuff. You know, it's too much at this point. But interesting acquisition. The Bears picked up Damien Williams. It was one of those things where the expectation in Kansas City was, hey, you know, you have this veteran returning. We're really looking forward to having him kind of tutor along Clyde Edwards-Helaire, kind of what they had hoped Lev Bell was going to be in his absence last season. But from your perspective, do you like the signing for Damien? And do you think that it was more about fit with Matt Nagy than it was, performance on the field?
Yeah, I think Matt Nagy connection is obviously it's the main attraction here, but for Chicago, it wasn't as though they had this glaring need. I mean, they could use another. I mean, every team could probably use another running back in their rotation, but I think for Bears fans, you start to look at the list of needs, or if you still wanted to rank them where the team could use some more talent, running back ends up 5, 6, 7, 8 positions down the list, right? It's pretty far down there. They like a lot with what they had with David Montgomery and Tariq Cohen. I think primarily it's a replacement for Cordero Patterson of what they had last year. He was sort of was lost for the season on injured reserve. So Damien Williams for them feels like insurance somewhat that, if they have another injury at running back or if something else happens, he can add a little bit more, certainly some more experience to that backfield and some more versatility too, so that maybe they can play Tariq Cohen at wide receiver a little bit more and get multiple running backs in the backfield at the same time and just be a versatile guy that can instantly step in the system. And you don't have to worry about, is this free agent going to work with us or not? Because Matt Nagy already knows.
Right. Yeah, I that would be the attraction for me as well. And that brings me to Matt himself. Obviously we saw Doug Peterson be real successful, then lose out in his situation. How's Matt doing? Fill us in.
It's not looking good at this point. And how much of that is exactly his fault is perhaps the hottest topic in Chicago sports now that Mitch Trubisky is out of town. I mean, that was good. He was the polarizing one. And now it's like, well, okay, wait a minute. Is Matt Nagy good? Is Matt Nagy a good head coach? Is Matt Nagy the right play caller? Because last season, when things were really going south with Nick Foles, the Bears made this change to play caller to their offensive coordinator, Bill Lazor, who was the Bengals offensive coordinator before that, and they spent some time with the Dolphins prior to that. And there was always this kind of mystery that Nagy wasn't, and for a while he wasn't saying who was doing the play calling, and we were kind of left to wonder. And then when Trubisky came back into the lineup after Foles was hurt, the Bears' whole offense kind of switched out of that Matt Nagy Kansas City Chiefs system and to much more of a Shanahan-like system with a lot of stretch zone runs and play action to use Trubisky's mobility in a way that they probably should have been doing all along. But it felt like as Trubisky was developing, they wanted to make him be more of that pocket quarterback and be more of that, general at the line of scrimmage and develop into that. We knew he was mobile and that was already his strength. So let's work on trying to get him to sort of fit this system and be accurate underneath and try and get some yards after the catch and all the things that the Chiefs have had a lot of success doing. And it really wasn't until the very end here that Matt Nagy kind of waved the white flag on Trubisky and said, all right, let's get my offensive coordinator here. Let's change up everything. Let's just try and win as many games as we can at the end of the year with Mitch to kind of try and save my job. Because if Nagy and the Bears missed the playoffs this year, even at 8-8, or how they just squeaked in as the 7th seed, we weren't sure if Matt Nagy was going to be able to hold on to his job. And when they had lost 6 games in a row, we felt like he wasn't going to be able to. And it was fairly miraculous that they pulled out enough to make the postseason and give them at least one more year.
Okay, so that makes total sense to me. And I like Matt, and I feel like I think that whole Trubisky thing's been a challenge for him. Fair enough. So when you look at the future here, like I like to see how the Andy Reid shakes out. Do you think that he can keep his job with what they have here? And do you think that this quarterback is actually going to be able to play Matt's offense, or do they have to tailor again?
That's why it's so confusing and so frustrating for Bears fans. It's like the idea was like last offseason, Nick Foles was going to be Matt's guy. You know, they'd worked together in Philadelphia. He had certainly had a lot of experience in Philadelphia's system without Matt Nagy there. So like that was going to be Matt's guy, and they were going to see what Mitch could do. And then as soon as Mitch was, you know, hit that second or third week of the season, and they realized he still wasn't getting to that next level, they yanked him. They put Foles in, and people were surprised with how quickly they made that. But like Foles did not work. This was not a good fit. I mean, and part of it was the whole team around him really started to crumble. They had COVID on the offensive line, and they were starting actual undrafted rookie free agents as their starting offensive line against Aaron Donald. You can kind of guess how well that's going to go. So like, did Nick Foles get a fair shot? Probably not. And then has Matt Nagy had a fair shot with his quarterback? Probably not. But you kind of look back over the last 4 years, and you'd like to think that, you know, Matt Nagy with a number 2 overall pick at quarterback, even with Trubisky's limitations, that you'd like your head coach to be able to make it work a little bit better than he has been able to with Trubisky. And now it's like, we still don't really know how good Nagy could be. And we don't feel like Andy Dalton is going to be the quarterback that really answers that for us.
That's an interesting point. Like, who can answer what part of it? And that's, fill us in from your perspective outside of Chiefs Kingdom. Clearly, is the perception that players in this system need to be in this system specifically with Andy? We just found out that Demarcus Robinson's re-signing in Kansas City. I thought he was a prime candidate to go to Chicago and help move that offense along in the direction that Matt Nagy wants to go. Is that not what people see from outside the KC Metro?
Yeah, the problem is it's like this Bears offense hasn't had an identity for a while. And Matt Nagy has talked all along about, we need to find an offensive identity. We need to run the ball more, he kept saying. And the Bears just wouldn't. Like, you know, they had a game where they ran the ball 7 times, and he's like, yeah, you know what? That's on me. We got to run the ball more. And then they just didn't. And there were so many opportunities like where he wants to kind of be a 2 tight end, heavy personnel for Trubisky and get some of that under center and some of that play action. And they were so hesitant to, and we're not exactly sure if that was Matt Nagy's play calling or if that was, you know, part of the game plan or whose influence that was. There's a lot of this like unknown assignment of blame. And so like this offseason, we're still not sure like what the offensive identity is supposed to be now with Andy Dalton. Do you go back to the Matt Nagy Kansas City style of like, you know, short underneath West Coast offense over the middle to get things kind of working to take some of that pressure off your quarterback? Or, you know, do they stick with more of a Shanahan style mobility, you know, stretch zone play action type offense with Andy Dalton, or what's going to be most comfortable for him? And then, you know, trying to plug Allen Robinson and all those other guys in it. They certainly would love to add a receiver like Demarcus Robinson, but then you throw in their financial fall down, and they've had to cut some really good players. And it's really, really messy. And again, makes it difficult to know, is Matt Nagy doing a good job, or is he just had some poor general managing above him?
I'm not even to get into that one because that's a whole different show, but it does bring to light, like, if he is struggling through personnel decisions, whoever he's able to put on the field. Bottom line, last thing that I need to know, do you think he survives this coming season in Chicago, or is it going to be Chiefs Kingdom screaming to have him back in the Chiefs offensive staff?
There's a mystery right now. The feeling in Chicago is that perhaps he and the general manager got a silent contract extension, that the way they've been acting this offseason hasn't been quite the way that you would think someone exactly saving their job and feeling like they don't have a contract. There's that rumor, nothing's been confirmed, and they refuse to answer at press conferences how many years they have on their contract. But I think if the Bears don't draft a quarterback early in this draft, then I think Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are both going to be gone. I'm not confident enough that the roster is going to be good enough to save their jobs, but you know, especially if they trade up for somebody, which I think a lot of Bears fans have their fingers crossed for. But you know, if they stay at 20 and draft Mac Jones, or trade down and get like Kyle Trask or Kellen Mond, I think an early quarterback might be enough for them to go to management and say, see, he played the last 6 games of the season after we benched Andy Dalton, and we've got a future to build on here. But if Dalton is truly, if it's Dalton Foles competing week 1 and there's no other rookie or anything in there, it's hard to envision things going well enough for the Bears to want to keep going along. And I think if they fire their GM, they're going to fire Matt too.
Okay. Outside of Lawrence, if you had your druthers and you're whispering in Matt's ear about who to go get, let's ignore Pace in this scenario, and Matt just gets to decide, right? Who do you go up and get? Who do you think fits what Matt and the Bears offense needs to be?
I'll tell you, the last time the Bears drafted a quarterback, the GM didn't tell the head coach until draft day. John Fox, when they drafted Trubisky, they did not tell their head coach that they were going to draft the quarterback. It was this big, mysterious operation. I think he's got a better relationship with Matt Nagy here, where they love the word collaboration. So that should go better. If I had to pick a quarterback, I mean, I think Zach Wilson and Justin Fields are probably going to go 2 and 3. So I don't feel like I have a shot. I haven't even really considered them as a possibility. All I keep circling in on is Trey Lance is the one who's probably most likely to fall if one of them is going to fall, and most likely to go 4th out of the 4. So that's the one that I feel like I have a shot to trade up. I give up a future 1st round pick, or I have to give up my 2nd and 3rd round pick, something to just give me some optimism at quarterback, because I just feel like, especially with somebody like Mac Jones, it's just a kind of a boring quarterback pick. And Trey Lance is the guy that makes me feel like I'm swinging for the fences, and that maybe it's not going to work and maybe it'll blow up horribly, but that's the guy that can be a top 10, top 5 quarterback if everything went right. He has that ceiling and that potential, whereas I don't feel like a guy like Mac Jones, he could be Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, and that's what I already have.
Right. I agree with you. I like that matchup, to tell you the truth. We'll cross our fingers and hope that it happens for them. So thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it. Filling us in on where the Chiefs are outside, and we'll get you back on here another time.
Hey, anytime you need me, I'm happy to help.
That's it, folks. Enjoy this one. We'll get back into the Chiefs gear tomorrow. So thanks for watching RGR Football. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for watching this video from the team at RGR Football. Click these videos to see more and subscribe to RGR Football.